Evening. Welcome to Wednesday's Experiencing the Buddha's Teaching. And I'm Wai Chung. Tonight, I'm starting on a new module called Calm Abiding and Special Insights. And this will also be the last module of this series of Experiencing the Buddha's Teaching. So I thought to start off with a brief review of what I have covered, the different modules, and to situate today's topic. Good evening, Craig. Yeah. So feel free to put your comments or questions on the live chat if you have any. So this series on experiencing the Buddha's teaching is my way of presenting a classic set of teaching called Lam Rim in Tibetan. Lam Rim means stages of the path. So in this system of presenting the Buddha's teaching, the different topics that the Buddha touched on are arranged in a systematic manner with a certain logic behind it. And those of us who study the Lam Rim study each of the topic and their meditations, the reflection and meditation, they go along with each topic, because each of the topic is designed to sort of transform our mind and heart, encourage us to cultivate certain qualities or put aside certain mistakes. So, and it's arranged in a very systematic manner. So start with what we can call the foundation. The foundation start off with a topic called the source of inspiration, connecting with our source of inspiration, which is from a particular point of view very important in the spiritual path, especially, for example, in the Buddhist path, to actually directly experience the effect of the Buddha's teaching in our own life. We need to be inspired to invest the time, the energy, to go through the trouble of cultivating meditation, for example. So inspiration is very important. So the very first topic, connecting with our source of inspiration. In the Buddhist context, of course, the main source of inspiration is, of course, our own spiritual teacher, our Buddhist teacher. Hopefully, we are skillful and wise in our selection of teacher. We find someone or more than one person who embodied the wonderful qualities that we admire in their life and in their behavior. And it's through connecting with them, through learning from them, and maybe observing them, then we are inspired, to also follow the Buddhist path. And of course, the main great source of inspiration is the Buddha himself, historical Buddha, his life stories, his teachings, that can be a wonderful source of inspiration. Then the second topic is on top of that, still part of the foundation, is to be able to appreciate the current opportunity we have with this life. So this is called appreciating our precious human life, or appreciating our precious human rebirth. Yeah. That is to take stock of what sort of freedom we currently enjoy, what sort of opportunities that we are currently endowed with, and by seeing our life from this perspective, to recognize how precious it is, how valuable it is. In fact, sometimes I also say how unique and unrepeatable our life is. And this is to, first of all, get us to invoke a sense of appreciation, to appreciate the positive aspects of our life. Instead of focusing on the negative, to focus on the positive. And as we value what we currently enjoy, hopefully we are also stimulated to generate the wish to make good use of this wonderful opportunity, this precious human life of ours, to live it in a meaningful, purposeful way, so much so that at the time of death, we can look back and we would feel no regret that we have, in fact, we have lived a very fruitful life, a way in accord with what we want to do with it, our wishes, our aspirations. So that's the second topic that form part of the foundation of this whole presentation. On the basis of those two topics, then it's presented in terms of three scopes of motivation, three levels of motivation, starting off with small scope. The small scope is when we touch on topics such as awareness of death, which is a profound topic. To be aware that even though we now have a precious opportunity, it is finite. There will come a point of time where we have to say goodbye to it. We have to die, and the time of death is totally uncertain. So awareness of death, awareness also of suffering, the potential of suffering in our life and in the future. If we do not pay attention, we might be accumulating and reinforcing the conditions for suffering. And therefore, it's important for us to pay attention to it. So what can we do? In the small scope level of motivation, which is really about encouraging us to go beyond our idea of immediate gratification, short-term happiness, and to look towards long-term happiness. Long-term happiness in the Buddhist context is very long-term. Yeah, I used to joke about it as a extended retirement plan, because Buddhists have this belief that there are multiple lifetimes. So not only do we need to take care of the retirement of this life, we also need to think about the future life. Are we providing the favorable conditions for happiness in the future life? So this is the small scope motivation. And so on top of awareness of death, awareness of potential future suffering, then we are recommended to reflect on refuge. What is it that we are able to reach out for and support us at the time of difficulties and at the time of death, and support us also in helping us to set the right direction, give us guidance as to what is the best way to go about creating causes of suffering. So there is the topic of going for refuge, which in the context of Buddhism refer to the Buddha, his teaching, the Dharma, and the community of fellow practitioners, the Sangha. And the most important teaching in the small scope, of course, is the teaching on karma, which is the actual mechanism, the practical aspects that we need to take note of and be mindful of. And through understanding the teaching of karma, we can start to accumulate the true causes of happiness and start to let go of what turn out to be causes of future suffering. True causes of happiness will be wholesome actions, virtuous actions motivated by wholesome states of mind, which also turn out to be states of mind that are in accord with reality. States of mind of loving kindness, of compassion and wisdom and ethics. Yeah. Unwholesome actions, non-virtuous actions, leads to suffering because they are distorted state of mind. They are not in accord with reality. The misunderstanding behind our so-called unwholesome actions, unwholesome states of mind, is a kind of misperception of reality. So because they are mistaken, they are ignorant, therefore instead of helping us to secure happiness, they're actually creating the conditions of suffering for ourselves. Yeah. So there is a small scope. Then we also cover the medium scope, where we go beyond merely seeking long-term happiness. We to seek for the happiness that's the complete liberation from suffering and its causes. Because long-term happiness in the Buddhist context is still very limited. We may be happy for a long time, but so long as we are caught up in what we call the cyclic existence, this state of existence where we just go round and round, like on a merry-go-round, sort of, we will never be fully and completely free of suffering. We may have a long, extended holiday away from suffering, but nonetheless, when the holiday finishes, we find ourselves back in the same old situation, same old problem, same old suffering. So the medium scope is to put an end to this constantly going round and round and round, to seek find the complete solution to our suffering and causes. And this, of course, is the famous presentation of Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, truth of the origin of suffering, the truth of cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path leading to such cessation, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. We touch on that briefly: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And so that is the medium scope, which is aiming for us to discover the fundamental mistakes we have and to correct that with cultivating of right view, supported by all the other factors. Yeah. And then that brings us to the great scope. The great scope is where we extend the scope of our motivation, not only thinking about our own happiness and suffering, but consider the happiness and suffering of all sentient beings, of others. And here the main thing is the cultivation of the altruistic motivation called bodhicitta. And we spent quite a bit of time looking at the two main methods to cultivate this altruistic motivation. One is called sevenfold cause and effect method, and the other one is called exchanging self with others. But at the heart of these two methods is actually the nurturing of the quality of loving kindness and compassion. And the last module, the previous module, we touch on having generated such an altruistic motivation, then what are the practice we can subsequently engage in? That is the module called the way of the Bodhisattva. A Bodhisattva is a person who has embodied and this bodhicitta altruistic motivation, and is on the way to assemble the causes and conditions to achieve enlightenment in order to be of benefit to others. So the presentation is on the 6 parameters, or something called 6 perfections. Parameters I previously explained as these are qualities that are able to take us beyond our current state of limitation, our current state of being caught up with the various causes and conditions of suffering. That we can go beyond this to the other shore, so-called the other shore of peace, of happiness, of liberation, of enlightenment. So parameters are 6 qualities that when we cultivate them, we bring them together, they're able to support us in so-called journeying from here, where we are, to there, from a suffering state to one of complete freedom from suffering, not just for ourselves, but also to be of benefit to others. Yeah. But of course, when we do arrive at the other shore, we realize that it is actually still here and now. It is merely a shift, a profound shift within ourselves, within our own mind, within our own perspective. Yeah. In the previous module, we touched on the first 4 of the 6 parameters of generosity, of ethical discipline, of patience, and of effort, joyous effort. And the last 2 parameters, concentration and wisdom, is what we are actually looking at in this module. Parameter of concentration, you can also equate with the state of calm abiding, which I will explain. And the parameter of wisdom, of course, you can equate it with special insight into reality. So today I want to start off with talking about calm abiding, or shamatha in Sanskrit. As the name implies, this is a state of mind in which we have calmed the various disturbances to the peace and well-being of the body, of the mind. So we have calmed all those disturbances, and therefore our body and our mind can abide here and now, abide in the meditative state, but in a wonderful state, a state which is suffused with bliss, with rapture, with contentment, the joy and happiness of contentment. And also the mind is very serviceable. Body is also very serviceable, mind is also very serviceable. If we place our attention on something, we find that we easily engage with that topic or object. We are able to focus on it. We are not distracted away from it. So hence, calm abiding is a more technical term, which normally we call concentration or meditative concentration. And in the parameter of concentration, then we cultivate such states of mind, of which calm abiding is probably the so-called something called the access point. Access, that means the doorway to other states of meditative absorption, much deeper states of meditative absorption. Yeah. So the threshold is achieving a state of calm abiding. Right. So this term calm abiding refer to a specific state of mind. It's not just a generic term of calming the body and mind of disturbances. It is a very specific fruit or result of having really calm and pacified all the different disturbances of body and mind, or the so-called hindrances to our meditation. And we find ourselves arrive at this experience, this particular state in which the mind and body function in this way. Yeah, so it's a very well-defined kind of state of functioning of body and mind, calm abiding, and it's the threshold beyond which we can even go deeper. We have more profound experiences. So this is calm abiding is not the final aim of Buddhist practice, because calm abiding, like any other experiences we may have, however wonderful they may be, is a transient state, impermanent state. Because for us to enter into concentration, meditative concentration called calm abiding, of course we need conditions. So when the right conditions come together, we find that we shift into this experience of calm abiding. And so long as those conditions persist and sustain, then sure, our meditation we continue to abide in a state of calm abiding. But eventually there will come a point of time when our meditation finish, the conditions disperse, and we find that we emerge from the state of calm abiding into a more ordinary level of functioning of body and mind. Some of the positive effect will linger with us, for hours and days, maybe even weeks. But nonetheless, the state itself has already disappeared. So it is an impermanent state. It is not the final goal or aim of Buddhist practice, but it is a very helpful condition to have. Because in the state of calm abiding, the mind is the word we tend to use is serviceable. The mind is very workable. The mind is free of a lot of the hindrances, the things that tend to disturb us. And therefore, we have on hand this tool that is really very powerful. And we can then direct the mind to investigate reality, to cultivate insights that has a profound impact on us, that can really change us, that can shift us out of our ignorant state into an enlightened state. So therefore, calm abiding have a supportive role in the Buddhist path. Yeah, because of that, it's important to cultivate it as best as we can. But it's also important to recognize that it is not the final goal that we are aiming for, precisely because it is impermanent, it is transient. That nothing we can do to hold on to it or to make it last forever. It feels very good while we are in it, but nonetheless, we cannot stay in it forever. We do have to emerge from it. We do have to let go of those conditions, and we'll find that this wonderful, blissful state of mind and body will fade away. Yeah. Okay, so, but nonetheless, not to worry about that. At least let's start to look at how we can work towards accomplishing the state of calm abiding. So, as the term implied, an important aspect of it is how can we calm the body of its various kind of reactivities or hindrances or disturbances, and how can we calm or free the mind from its own disturbances and reactivities. So the way I have been presenting the means to cultivate calm abiding is a little bit different. When I first start to practice meditation, learn about meditation, and for a long time afterwards, even when I'm studying Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, let's say, a very common way of presenting calm abiding, or for that matter, other types of meditative concentration, is people talk about the object of meditation. So we must choose the right kind of object to meditate on, and that varies from one person to another. Some people are naturally very good with visualized image. They find it very easy for them to call forth a particular visualized image. In calm abiding, you do have to stick to the same image, because if you keep changing the image, then the mind gets distracted, and it's difficult to enter into a state of deep meditative absorption if you are just sort of. It's not like watching a movie, so you do have to sustain a similar image, and that can be quite difficult for a lot of people these days. Yeah, but so now there's a visualized image, let's say, of a Buddha, like one of the form of the Buddha behind me, is a common object of meditation in Tibetan Buddhism. The breath is also another very common object of meditation. This is the one that I start out with. There are qualities like loving kindness, meditating on loving kindness. Loving kindness can also be an object of meditation. So when we present object of meditation, then a lot of the emphasis is placed on understand the presentation is such that, of course, at the time of calm abiding, our mind will be able to abide on that chosen object of meditation without any distraction, and usually for quite an extended period of time. Traditionally, they talk about it as 4 hours. In one session, 4 hours long, we'll be able to sustain a continuous engagement with the same object of meditation without any distraction, without anything impeding or harming the quality of attention for the entire period of time. So this is a very common description, and also naturally we find ourselves aiming to sort of stick with the object of meditation. We want our attention to stay put with it. Yeah. And herein lies a tricky part of it, because of course that takes a while to develop the skill, to figure out how to do it, and also to condition our body and mind to let go of the hindrances. Yeah. So it takes a while. It's a process. It's a journey. It's not going to happen just the first time. I mean, it does happen for some people, but that is because of other conditions. Yeah. But most of us, we probably need to spend quite a bit of time and energy and practice. Yeah. And I observe, and including my own experience, and this is where this becomes a source of frustration and disappointment to a lot of people. Because when we start to meditate using a particular object of meditation, we almost ought to expect that we won't be able to stay with it. Yeah. Because the mind, not being used to doing things like this, will naturally be distracted. We find ourselves distracted by thoughts, by sound, by all sorts of other things. Or alternatively, we also have a tendency to fall asleep, or the mind descend into downness, because we are not used to sustaining an engagement with the same object for an extended period of time. We don't know what to do with our mind. We don't know what to do with ourselves. So we either get very agitated and restless and so on and so forth, or we get very bored. We get very bored with the meditation, and then we might be a bit unbeknown to us, we're actually very tired, exhausted, sleep deprived. And so, of course, when we meditate, then the natural tendency is to fall asleep or become very dull. The mind, maybe not asleep, but the mind become very dark, very dull, very slow, actually not quite awake anymore. Yeah. So those are the common hindrances. And this is very frustrating for a lot of people, because if they set a very high expectation, they read about calm abiding and they want to achieve it, their actual experience, the reality of their experience and their expectation, there's this big gap, because they simply couldn't stay with the object of meditation for very long, maybe in seconds or even less than a second. And this will continue for the entire session, and for many sessions to come. This will be almost like a constant struggle. If you keep telling yourself, I must stay with the object of meditation. And I see this as there's an inherent problem, because people get very discouraged. Repeatedly, you find that you fail to live up to your expectation, which is probably very high standard, of be able to sustain your attention on the object of meditation for an extended period of time. I like to think of it as sometimes I think we go about doing it not in a very skillful way, because you just think about this situation that I just described. What we are doing is we are actually setting ourselves up to fail. Because, of course, at the beginning of our meditation journey, we wouldn't be able to stay with the object of meditation. We ought to expect that we will be distracted from it again and again. And that is a more likely scenario than one in which we will be able to stay with the object of meditation. But because we just go ahead, we just think that because there's this description, that's what I should be able to replicate it in my own experience. We set ourselves up to be very frustrated with ourselves. We get very upset. We have this constant sense of failing. It's very disempowering and very discouraging experiences. You either get distracted or you fall asleep. So it's sort of you find that your experience seems to toggle among this, and very hard to ever get a good experience. Occasionally, yes, but of where the mind sort of calm down and just sort of naturally just stay with the object of meditation for a period of time. Those are quite rare experiences. So having said so much, what I am recommending here is we approach it a bit differently. We don't jump straight in with this idea that I ought to stay with my object of meditation. Think of it as that is the long-term goal, and that will be accomplished when the conditions are right. So the way we cultivate calm abiding, we can start with conditions, gathering the right conditions that allow us eventually to do so. So here the conditions are, first is posture, very important. Not so much getting the perfect posture, but getting the most appropriate posture for ourselves for this session. Because the body changes, the mind changes, our circumstances changes. A posture that is useful or helpful in one session may not be the case in another session. So each session we can revisit it, and we can check in and see, hey, what would be the most appropriate, most helpful posture for myself? Posture that support your body, allow the body to settle into it, be at ease, without introducing unnecessary pain or discomfort. Unnecessary means if you don't start off with that pain and discomfort, why should that posture introduce it into you just because you start to meditate? So if your posture constantly creates pain and discomfort for you, then that posture is most probably not suitable for you at this point of time. For example, traditionally, we tend to sit cross-legged on the floor. And for a lot of us in the modern times, we are not used to it. And our body is not used to it. And by forcing our body to sit in that posture, we are just creating more discomfort, more pain. Hence, I think sometimes start off with the chair can make things much easier for us, because we are used to sitting on a chair. We just have to park our body on the chair. And then suddenly the body is supported in the sitting posture, and there is no pain, no discomfort. Then that fulfills the first condition, a suitable, supportive posture. We can also sit on the floor if you are capable, no problem. You can also lie on your back in the supine position. I do recommend that for some people, for some of the time, because that can by creating a different conditions, they allow us to have a different set of experiences. Yeah. So first condition is posture. Second condition I emphasize, and later we're going to practice, is return our attention to our own body, to practice mindfulness of the body, in this case bodily sensations, so that we connect the mind and the body, and that connection of body and mind goes a long way to help the body to adjust, help the body to release a lot of those unnecessary reactions, reactivities, the tension, the tightness, the contractions of the muscles, a lot of which are simply our reaction to a stressful situation in our life. And since in meditation we're not directly dealing with those stressors, we can, this is an opportunity for the body to undo, for the body to loosen up, to relinquish those reactivities and to shift back more to baseline. So the next condition is the mindfulness of body in order to facilitate the release of physical reactivity. Third condition is mindfulness of pleasant feelings that come out of meditation. When the body releases those reactivity, quite often it's accompanied by very mild, pleasant feelings of relief, of relaxation, of softening. Welcome those feelings into your meditation. Allow yourself to enjoy them while they're here. They don't last very long, they fade very quickly, which is perfectly fine. And when we are mindful of those pleasant feelings that come out of our meditation, this awareness of pleasant sensations is the condition of helping the mind to calm down. When we notice and we are able to enjoy something pleasant, it feels nice, isn't it? And that feeling, those nice feelings, those pleasant feelings, really reassure the mind that things must be going all right here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be feeling this pleasure. I wouldn't be feeling so comfortable, so at ease. So the mind will also respond to these conditions by slowing down. The mind becomes less agitated, is able to let go or put aside a lot of its habitual reactions, reactivities, again, to the circumstances of our life. Quite often in the form of thinking. We find that sometimes we think compulsively, involuntarily, repeating a certain scenario or situation over and over again. Now, this kind of mental reactivity, we will find that we start to let them go when we are mindful of pleasant feelings happening in our meditation. So those are the three conditions. And at the end of it, if we are able to bring them together and allow them to exert their influence on our own system, our body and mind, we naturally become the fourth step of it. We naturally become very aware of the body, but also very aware of the mind itself. Because as everything calms down, we are much more present and we are much more in touch with what is happening here and now. And naturally, we'll be able to tune into the state of the mind, the quality of our attention. Yeah. So up to here, I think it's a good time for us to explore these ideas that I'm presenting and see whether it's true or not in your own experience, see whether you agree with it or you disagree with it. Either way is fine. And see whether do you think this way of approaching makes sense, whether they do contribute towards our journey to achieving the state of calm abiding by attention to posture, attention to body in order to calm the body, attention to pleasant feeling in order to calm the mind, and finally attention to the mind itself, which is what we are hoping to work with in meditation. Right? So I'm going to invite you to do a meditation with me. I'll guide you through this. And you also notice that in just now the description, there is no one specific object of meditation that I highlight. Instead, I'm directing your attention to different things. First is posture, then is body, then is pleasant feelings, and lastly is the mind itself. And later I will explain how I perceive the role of object meditation in this context. But first, let's just try out these ideas. I invite you to choose a suitable posture for yourself. Those of you who have been following this series, you probably know that very well. So now it's the time to just adjust the body and allow the body to find its way into whichever posture we have adopted. So first, let's check in on the posture, making sure that we provide a firm, supportive base for our body to settle in this posture, be it sitting or lying down, lying on our back. Those of us who are sitting on a chair, we try to have both feet firmly planted on the ground to provide an additional sense of support to the body. We can, most important is of course with the back, the spine, allowing it to assume a most natural position, upright if you are sitting, straight if you are lying down. By that I mean we do not need to deliberately tense up the back muscles in an attempt to somehow straighten the back. Instead, much better is to just allow our upper body to move around and just allow the body to find its way to a most comfortable upright position, most natural as well. That does not involve a lot of deliberate tensing up of the back muscles. We rest our hands and arms on some physical support so that the weights are supported. Rest our hands on the knees or in the lap if you are sitting. Rest the arms by the side of the body if you are lying down. As for the eyes, normally I suggest people to just close the eyes completely. Or if you are more used to meditating with your eyes open or half open, then that is also fine. So once we have select and settle our body into the particular meditation posture, allow the body some time to adjust, to get used to this posture. And we can, to reassure the body that this is a very supportive posture, we can allow our attention, our awareness to take note of sensations coming through the points of contact between the body and the seat, the body and the ground. Highlight to ourselves sensations of solidity, of firmness and stability beneath us. Sensations we associate with the earth element, and feel that the great earth is here to hold us up, to support our body in this meditation posture. Being supported in this way, our body may feel reassured, and it may begin a natural process of loosening up, unwinding. The body realizes that it does not need to be so tight and tense, that there is no real danger here. And in its own time, the body may begin to unwind, let go of some of those unnecessary contractions of the muscles, the tension, the tightness, and allow itself to settle down and be comfortable in this posture. So that is the first step or the first condition that I call acquiring a suitable seat for our body meditation. The second step, we're going to take quite a bit of time to help body and mind to shift gears, to put aside different disturbances or agitations, and to channel body and mind so that they can settle down and settle deeper into the meditation. We start by returning our attention to our own body, to be attentive to the bodily sensations, starting at the crown of the head. So just imagine resting our attention at the crown, so much so that we become aware of sensations here. Maybe a slight tingling feeling, a bit of pressure, maybe warmth, coolness, or maybe nothing at all. We imagine our attention is like water. It starts to flow downwards from the crown, flowing forward into the face. We return our attention to our own face. Notice sensations here at the face. Are we unconsciously tensing up any of the facial muscles? If yes, see if we can deliberately and consciously try to relax the muscles of the face. Invite in a different feeling into our own face, one of softness, of ease and comfort. Notice also sensations at the sides of the head, at the back of the head, and maybe even inside the head. And in this paying mindful attention to our own body, we're not looking for any special sensations or spectacular sensations. We simply allow ourselves to be open and aware of the various tactile sensations present here. Allow attention to flow downwards into the neck, the muscles of the neck, into the throat. Simply allow ourselves to awaken to the simple sensations here. And allow attention to continue downwards into the shoulders. Inquire into how our shoulders are feeling today. Notice whether the shoulders feel tight and tense and uncomfortable, or do they feel soft and relaxed and at ease. Regardless of what we find at our own shoulders, see if we can take note of them, take note of those sensations, and simply acknowledge them, be it pleasant or unpleasant, and just let them be for the moment. We send our attention down both arms at the same time, checking in, noticing sensations here, reconnecting mind with body. Notice sensations at the shoulder joints, sensations at the upper arms, sensations at the elbows, quite subtle sensations maybe. Simply allow these to just come into awareness without effort on our part, without straining, without struggling. And when we do notice that our attention is distracted elsewhere, find ourselves drifting to sleep, you can think of my voice as a reminder reminding you to return your attention here and now to your body in this case. Or when you do notice that your mind has wandered off, you yourself can remind yourself and invite your attention to come back here and now to the body. Continue down the arms, be aware of sensations in the forearms, at the wrists. And eventually, arriving at both hands, we take special note of sensations in both hands, down the fingers, all the way to the fingertips. Now that we have awakened the sensations in both arms, see if we can give permission and rest the weights of both arms comfortably on their physical support. Returning our attention to the body, to the torso. See if we can notice sensation at the chest, tune into the different sensations at the chest, the rhythmic movements of the chest as we breathe in and out. The beating of our own heart, if you're able to sense that. Sensations at the front of the body, sensations at the back of the body, sensations inside the body. And we allow attention to descend further to the abdomen, take in, attend to the sensations here, sensations at the level of the skin, those in the muscles, sensations deep within the body, the organs maybe. Allow attention to continue downwards to the pelvis. Notice sensations here at the pelvic region. Sensations on the outside, sensations on the inside. Take note of the sense of weight of the pelvis resting on the seat, on the floor. We send our attention down both legs at the same time, noticing as we go simple sensations starting from the hips, from the hips down the upper legs towards the knees, from the knees down the lower legs, arriving at the ankles. And then continue down into the feet, so that we are aware of sensations coming through the soles of the feet, at the top of the feet, sensation in the toes. Now that we are aware of both legs, we have awakened the sensations in them. See if we can give permission and allow both legs to rest their weight comfortably on the floor, whatever physical support they are on. Surrender their weight to gravity. Now that we have returned our attention, travel from crown all the way to the feet, see if we can allow the body to settle back into the posture, to continue to unwind, to settle down, to be as comfortable as can possibly be. See if we can allow attention to keep coming back here and now to the body, to be in touch with bodily sensations at different parts of the body, and also to be attentive to any pleasant feelings that may arise as a part of the meditation, however mild or faint this might be, a slight sense of softening, of release, of relaxation. Welcome those pleasant sensations into our awareness. Allow ourselves to enjoy them if they're here. Again and again, we return our attention and allow it to rest here and now in this broad manner. Rest our attention with the body, with the feelings. With patience, we take notes to see whether this mindful attention to the body, does it really work? Does it have any impact on the reactivities of the body? Does it help to deepen the sense of release of unnecessary contraction and tensions? And also inviting our attention to come back here and now to appreciate any sense of pleasure that come out of the meditation, however faint or slight this might be, any sense of relief, relaxation, any sense of softening, of tightness and tension. Welcome this into awareness. Enjoy them while they're here. Let them go when they fade away. And notice whether does this help? Does it have any impact on the mind and its mental reactivity? So coming back here and now, attentive to the body, bodily sensations here, attentive to any pleasant feelings that arise from within the meditation, checking in to see whether creating such conditions have any positive impact on our body, whether it helps the body to release the various bodily physical reactions in the form of tensions. Likewise, notice whether there's any effect on the mind itself, the functioning of the mind. Notice whether the mind is still distracted, is it feeling dull, sleepy? Just as we tune in and pay attention to the body, just as we tune in and pay attention to pleasant feelings that arise in the meditation. In the last few minutes of this meditation, I invite you to tune in and notice the state of your own mind, of a mind or consciousness or awareness. It's not a physical thing. It's more like a space. Sometimes I call it the aware space. It's a space suffused with awareness. And now I invite you to check in. Is your aware space chock-a-block full of thoughts, of words and images, of traffic, trains of thoughts coming and going? Is your aware space, your mind, the entire space feels very dark, very dim, very constricted, heavy. Things are not appearing clearly within this dark, dim space as the mind comes under the influence of sleepiness or drowsiness or dulness. Or maybe your aware space is fairly well lit. You're fairly present, aware of the different things, the sounds, the sensations, the different feelings, even the different thoughts coming and going, appearing and disappearing within your aware space, which stays relatively calm, spacious, open, and at ease. So just now the meditation I introduced you to several different conditions that we can take note of and we can cultivate in our meditation practice and see for ourselves the effect they have on our body, on our mind, the posture, attention to posture, attention to body, attention to pleasant feelings that come out of the meditation, and finally attention to the mind itself. I use the word attention, but you can also use the word mindfulness. Yeah. And in this approach, which is not that different, it's just that we are taking a much longer time to create the foundations, to bring together the favorable conditions that are conducive for us to settle into the state of calm abiding. Just a few things to maybe take note of. So posture makes a big difference in this way. A suitable posture is supportive for the meditation. We settle into it, we become more and more comfortable. Doesn't give us any problem. We feel supported. Wonderful. Wrong posture, an unsuitable posture, you'll find that throughout the entire meditation, we keep coming back to it. We keep fidgeting. Keep fidgeting. In fact, the posture almost becomes like the focal point of our attention because we are so uncomfortable in it. Something is not right, and the body is trying to tell you that, and yet we are trying to convince the body that this is the right one. No, you should just stick with it. So there's a struggle going on there. So attention to posture can really free us from unnecessary struggle. Attention to the body. So instead of jumping straight into a particular object of meditation, like the breath or a visualized image, it's almost like this is how I think of it. We have this extended time period of preparation, preparing the body and mind, so that when they are fully ready, you'll find that entering into deep concentration is like a piece of cake. But the preparation takes a long time. So first we prepare the body. We bring attention back to our body, and without much effort on our part, just by reconnecting the mind with the body, we are actually kickstarting a natural process in which the body will adjust itself. It's almost like the body sort of recognize suddenly that, there is no reason here for me to be so tight and so tense. There's no reason here for me to work so hard, contracting and tightening. Then the body decided, I can stop work. I can release those contractions. I can let go of those tensions. And the more it does that, the more comfortable it feels. So the more you encourage the body to release what is not needed, what is unnecessary, what is basically just extra. So attention to body has this beneficial effect of unwinding and helping the body to release especially the kind of stress reactions that we have. The tension sometimes is our reaction to stress in our life. So we undo it. This actually sometimes has a technical name in some psychological research. It's called relaxation response. It's where the body sort of allows itself to go back to baseline instead of staying in a state of fight or flight mode. So it allows itself to just sort of settle back into a normal state of functioning. Right? So through attention of body, and as you get used to it, it will happen all by itself. We don't have to do anything extra apart from simply coming back and notice the body, and the whole body, not just one part, but the whole body. And as that release happens, naturally there will be pleasant feelings. Right? For example, with the face, I often tense up the muscles around the eyes. It's an unconscious thing. I don't know why, but sometimes when you find that when I put effort in something, naturally it will start to tense up, even in meditation. But the moment I notice that tension, moment I realize this is not needed, it's possible. It's very easy to undo it as the body release that tension and let in a different feeling, a feeling of softness, of ease and comfort. Immediately I feel so much better. And those pleasant feelings that come out of the meditation, not pleasant feelings that come from other things. No, those other type of pleasures, wonderful, of course, they distract us because we keep thinking about them, right? But the pleasant feelings that come from meditation itself, of course, attract more attention to go deeper into the meditation. After all, it is the source of those pleasures. So this seemingly simple pleasure of relaxation, of undoing some of the tightness, of the release, goes a long way to calm the mind. Because pleasure signal to the mind, something must be all right here. If things are not all right, I won't be able to feel that pleasure. And as the mind got the message, the mind also starts to undo. Maybe a bit slower than the body, maybe, I don't know. The mind may start to calm down. Maybe previously there's a lot of thoughts, a lot of agitation. Over a period of time in the meditation, that might decrease. There may be more space, more silence. Some people experience it as greater silence, as the chattering. They won't go away completely, at least in this preliminary phase, but they are less. And we really notice there are gaps during which we are not thinking so much. We are not so distracted. So that is the calming of the mental reactivity. So of course, when we calm down the mind is still awake. Then we notice more things. We are more in touch with what is happening. We may notice the sound. We notice bodily sensations. We even notice thoughts arising. The mind becomes more acute and more mindfully aware. And this, what I've been doing so far, is really creating the conditions that later we, on the basis of this, we will find it so much easier to settle even deeper into meditation towards the state of calm abiding. Here, pleasures from meditation play a very important role. So I want to spend the rest of this session just talk about the kind of pleasures we can look out for, that we can embrace and pay attention to and encourage. Because the kind of pleasures that come out of meditation, first of all, make meditation itself so much more enjoyable. Makes it so much easier to persuade ourselves to come back to meditation because we really enjoy it. And the pleasure itself, of course, has this marvelous effect of calming the mind and also the body as well. So body and mind really makes it so much easier for them to shift more and more towards a state of stillness and calmness. Yeah. Two kinds of pleasures are mentioned in the Buddhist literature on meditation. One, I prefer to call it rapture. Some other people have used other terms of translation, but I'm going to just call it rapture. Rapture is much more physical, and also when we experience it, we tend to, well, I tend to describe it as much more energetic. Right? So rapture, sort of like some kind of vibrations or like a buzz, buzzing sensations, or tingling sensations. So it's almost electric, or very much more vibrational and energetic. Of course, different people experience it differently. Yeah. 5 types of rapture were described, and we can look out for at least the earlier type. It's not difficult to experience rapture, especially if you know what to look out for. You're open to it. Yeah. Of course, the later types might be more rare, especially the last type, the 5th type. First is called minor rapture. I have a very loose definition. Raptures are all sorts of interesting sensations, tingling, buzzing, almost like electric current moving sensations. But minor rapture, I tend to regard them as on the superficial, on the skin level. So the sensation of goosebumps on certain parts of your body, not because of a cold draft, but simply due to something happening within yourself. So there is you have this sort of surface manifestation of hair standing on ends. That is one form of rapture. Others would be like, usually I sometimes experience this sort of buzzing sensation at the fingertips, like bzzz. I also count that as a minor rapture. And likewise, any kind of this kind of buzzing, tingling sensation at any parts of the body, especially if they're very superficial, we can count that as minor rapture. So when you notice it, welcome it into awareness, allow yourself to attentive to it, enjoy it while they're here, and then see what happens. Yeah. Second type of rapture is called flash, like a lightning flash-like rapture, because it really feels like 2 wires reconnect, and there's a surge of a current through it, somewhere inside your body, any parts of the body. And it's very short in duration, a lot more intense, and a little bit deeper inside your body compared to the minor rapture. There's flash-like rapture. The third one is, you can call it a wave-like rapture. And here, wave-like rapture is a lot more stable than the first 2 types. The sensations are a lot more obvious, and they surges forth. Can be at different parts of your body in this kind of wave-like movement. Sort of intensify and then recede, and then intensify again and recede. Wave-like rapture. The 4th type is called uplifting rapture. Uplifting because it feels like one part of your body, or sometimes the whole body, becomes very light, very buoyant, like almost as if you can float or levitate. There is a lightness, or another way of describing it is absence of weight, weightlessness. So so it can, of course, manifest in different form, like feeling one part of the body feels like more and more light, almost as if it's floating, or it feels strangely absent of any kind of density or weight. And sometimes maybe even have this sense the entire body just disappear, yeah, or so light that you start to wonder whether are you levitating. I don't think you are, but the sensations are here. Yeah. So there's the uplifting rapture. And the fifth one is when this kind of sensation pervades all parts of our body, pervasive rapture, which are probably are not so common, except when we enter into deep meditation. So rapture is the first type of pleasant sensations that come out of our meditation that we can look out for. Rapture, I don't usually consider rapture as pleasant, because they can be a little bit disturbing, but they are not unpleasant. I just tend to call it interesting, because they do attract my attention to them when they arise, because, hey, something interesting is happening, something a bit weird is happening in this part of my body. The other senses, like audio or visual senses, those are pleasure of those particular senses now. So when you listen to music, you derive pleasure. Sure, those are the pleasure of listening. Yeah, those are not rapture. Right? Those are just pleasant sensations. There are many other types of pleasant sensations due to different objects or causes and sources. So I'm only talking about the type of pleasant sensations we look out for in meditation. That we want to cultivate, that we want to bring into our meditation, because they have a profound effect on our meditative experience. Yeah. Usually you'll find that in Buddhism, we don't talk much about sound, because Buddhist meditation, first of all, do not deliberately assemble sound. Craig, do you mean that you hear the sound continuously? Or is it just, is the sound originate from outside, or is an inner kind of experience? Because there are different kind of so inner sound. So just as some people see inner vision when they settle into meditation, like a very common one is behind your closed eyelid, you see patterns of colors, or mine is sort of wavery, and some people have very specific shape and form, and that visual experience is inner. It's not due to something outside, or due to you pressing on your eye, but it's a response to the shift in your state of mind in meditation. So that is visual. You can also hear sound, which of course not due to external sound, but inner sound can appear within your meditation. So those are sensory types of experiences, but they are triggered by meditation. And those are also very enjoyable, because they are indication that something is shifting within us, be it visual or auditory. The thing about those kind of experiences is we can also include them in our awareness, because they indicate that I tend to think, my theory is, our mind, as the mind shifts from one state to another, maybe going deeper into meditation, sometimes the mind responds to this change by creating some new experiences, as a kind of a response to the transition. So some people were more visually inclined. The transition is manifest as colors appearing behind the eyelid. Others, the transition trigger inner sound to be heard. Now, whenever this kind of inner experiences arise, the general advice is to just acknowledge them, welcome them into awareness, and just let them be. Don't try to hold on to them, but see them as a positive omen, positive indication that you are going deeper into your meditation. After all, we normally they don't arise in our day-to-day life, normal functioning. The fact that they arise as a part of our meditation is a positive indication that we are going deeper. And these are just the sort of the byproduct of that shift towards deepening meditation, manifest in visually or auditorily, or sometimes even tactile. Like I have sensations in which, like one arm seems to get bigger and bigger. It's just a shift in my sensation. So those, you can group them together as a kind of unusual shift in our sensations and experiences. Yeah. Now, and they can be quite interesting, and they also help to draw our attention back to meditation. But we make a differentiation between this kind of experiences with what I'm trying to present here, which is a purely kind of feeling, purely a kind of pleasant experience, not so much related to visual or auditory. Yeah. So rapture is one of them. Very important. If you notice rapture arising, welcome them in. Don't have to hold on to them, but just enjoy, pay attention to it, be aware of it, enjoy it while it's here. It's probably going to change and shift. The other kind of pleasant sensation, I call it the happiness of contentment. This is a bit harder to notice because it's very subtle. But there are times when you are in meditation and you find that suddenly you are quite happy to just be here in this meditation. That your mind is no longer reaching out and trying to grasping onto different things. Your mind is actually quite happy to be here. Maybe one moment for example, you're just happy to be here and listening to this inner sound that arises. You're not doing anything to it. You're not getting all excited, but you're just happy to be here with it. Or people who have visual images appearing in their mind, they're just happy here, like enjoying the show while it is here. So there is a sense of contentment, being satisfied and being complete in this moment. So much so that you don't look out for something else, you don't lean forward to try to get something else. You're happy with whatever that is present here. And sometimes it can also be you suddenly realize for a few minutes that you're just here. You notice the external sound, like the plane flying, or you notice your body, the breath, and that's it. That's it. There's no commentary. There's no, I should do this, I should do that. Just very much, the mind is very still and very at ease with itself, at peace with itself, at peace with whatever that is here. And that is, if you were to pay attention to those moments, there is a subtle, sometimes there can be a subtle sense of pleasure, a kind of happiness, a happiness of contentment is how I describe it. That you're just content. It's almost like if you were to last longer, you can just sit here and chill and be totally contented with no inclination to add more to it, to bring more into it, or to somehow hold on to it. So there's a different kind of enjoyment here. So these are the two main types of pleasant experiences that, by me describing it to you, I hope you will look out for it, not so much to crave for it, but to recognize it when it arises as part of your meditation, and instead of ignoring it, to welcome it into your awareness, to be attentive to them as well. And they has a profound impact on the progress of our meditation. When they arise, initially they arise very unpredictably and they don't hang around for very long, maybe very short, a few seconds, a few minutes. No problem. While they're here, just welcome them in, enjoy their company so long as they're here. And what it does is it goes a long way to really calm and settle the mind. Really help the mind to separate itself from all its old habits or reactions or the agitations or the restlessness. And in fact, sometimes when they arise strongly, when the pleasure arises strongly, they're also very energizing, especially rapture, and really help to dispel the fogginess of mind, the drowsiness, the sleepiness, or downness of mind. Downness of mind that although you feel very relaxed, but you're not very alert, not very awake. And in the Buddhist context, it's not a good state to stay long. Staying in a dull state of mind is not helpful. It's like also it's not. I mean, it might be a relief if you have been very stressed, but in and of itself, a dull mind is not very enjoyable because basically you are not fully here, not fully present in this moment. So rapture and happiness can also help us to dispel drowsiness, sleepiness. Yeah. So it's very versatile in helping to help the mind to come back to balance, to release unnecessary reactivity. And it goes a long way. In fact, if we use them skillfully, such pleasure can lead us all the way to the state of calm abiding, because they are so fascinating experience. They really transform the very whole experience of meditation for ourselves. They energize us, they inspire us, and because it's so enjoyable, they attract us back to our meditation practice. And in the meditation itself, they go a long way to help us, help body and mind to settle down and settle deeper and deeper into meditation. Right? So, so today what I've covered is the sort of what I think are favorable conditions that can go a long way to facilitate our cultivation of calm abiding. I won't actually go into details of what exactly is calm abiding, but the way to achieve it, so I'm suggesting is instead of choosing an object of meditation and just struggle with it, constantly struggling to hold on to it, and get very upset and frustrated if we are distracted from it or if we fall asleep. Instead of just applying this kind of approach where all we are trying to do is we are straining and struggling to hold on to the object of meditation because we heard that calm abiding, the mind of calm abiding is a mind of single-pointed concentration. So we feel that in order to achieve single-pointed concentration, I just have to try harder to hold on to the object of meditation, the object of my focus. I'm suggesting that you approach this whole thing differently. Don't worry about the object of meditation first. Worry about or be concerned about the underlying conditions. Can I gather the right conditions? Start with posture, attention to body, attention to pleasant feelings, rapture and happiness or contentment, attention to the mind. And bit by bit, by gathering the suitable, favorable conditions, you may find that when you're very good at this condition gathering, that by the time you go through the different steps, you have already arrived at a state of mind and body that is so much more settled than what you start off with. 25 minutes is more than enough to settle them to some extent, not perfectly, of course. And so much so that you find that actually there are much less distraction compared to what you start off with. Or you're much more awake and present. Or you're already so much calmer, and the whole body and mind feel so much at ease in meditation at the end of it compared to at the beginning of it. And when you have such experience, these are very good indication, or especially if you even have sign that your body and mind are really shifting down, like visual experiences of light. Sometimes people experience spontaneously white light, or sometimes the color change, maybe settle into violet color, or as Craig said, there is the arisal of an inner sound. So all this indication that the body and mind responds to the changing conditions, now shifting towards calm abiding, shifting towards a deeper meditation. And I think this is a good place to start and a good approach. So much less suffering, so much less struggle, much more enjoyable, and also much more. I think it's much easier. No struggle, no frustration. Just boom, 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 and then before you know it, you arrive at a much calmer place. And the more you do it, the faster it becomes. The more familiar you are, the more your body and mind are familiarized with it, the more responsive they are each time you start. Sometimes very seasoned meditator can accomplish this whole process of settling down in just seconds, because the body and mind are so conditioned in this positive way that once you start, they know what to do. They will just, and then going deeper from that point on is so much easier. Right? So do consider this this way of presenting and approaching calm abiding meditation, and try out on your own and see whether it is true or not. Yeah. Okay, and that's all I have for this week. Thank you very much. Next week we'll continue with calm abiding. Have a good week ahead, and hope to see you next Wednesday. Take care.